Before the season began, if you told someone that Memphis would be 2-0 and Florida State would be 0-2, I think they probably would have laughed in your face and walked away. That's not something that anybody anticipated with this game, and it's still going to be tough despite Florida State's 0-2 record for Memphis to win. It's a very important game, a game in which they face their former head coach in Mike Norvell, and this is a team that's very motivated to make Florida State 0-3, and there's some implications either way with how this game plays out. Now, once again, Memphis has started the year 2-0. Granted, they have not played anybody of note because you played Troy last week, but Troy is not nearly the same team since John Summerall left. That's been very obvious. That's something that I predicted coming into the year. And that's just kind of anticipated. They also played North Alabama, and you really haven't played anybody that is of the caliber of Florida State. Now, Florida State obviously 0-2, a start that no one really anticipated, kind of a surprising and very disappointing start. And really, it's been a disappointing offensive performance, averaging 17 points per game. The defense has been a little bit better, though it has its flaws as well. And now you're facing a really explosive offense in Memphis. Memphis is a very good team, a very explosive offense. Their defense is very experienced, and that could make this a very difficult game for Florida State. Now, Florida State has faced some very good offenses so far. I mean, Georgia Tech proved to be a much better offense than we anticipated. And Boston College, while you wouldn't say that they're an elite offense, they provide a unique challenge with Thomas Castellanos, and that was something that this team was not ready for. Now, when the season began, this line probably would have been double digits at least in Florida State's favor. It's down to 5.5 as I'm recording this. And that still says something about this game in terms of where both teams are at, but also it says that even with Florida State struggles, they are still the favorite, and Memphis is still the underdog. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on. How do these teams respond to this challenge? Can Memphis embrace the underdog role? I've yet to see them win one of these really important games under Ryan Silverfield, and beating a Power Five team is something that I'm curious to see if they have in them under him, and that's going to be a big question for them is can they actually win the big game? And now it's not as big of a game as maybe you anticipate, but still beating a Power Four opponent is going to make your resume much stronger, and it's going to be very interesting to see how this team plays if they are able to win and what that means for them long term. Now, the question for Florida State is what does the quarterback situation look like? DJ Uiagalelei is probably going to get the start. And from this point forward, we're going to see if he is going to be the quarterback long term for Florida State or if they are going to move on. And this is a group that, again, is very talented, has the players to make that happen. And it's going to be fun to see how they respond. But also at the same time, a lot of that is on the quarterback. And if DJ is up to the task and can bounce back, he's going to be the quarterback. But if you're continuing to lose games, I think that if you lose this game, I don't see a reason why DJ plays the rest of the year. And that's not like, I mean, part of it is that he's struggled, but you also kind of have to look at the long term future of this team. And now it's not putting Mike Norvell on the hot seat by any means. This is the team that needs to think long term because let's be honest real quick. Florida State was probably not going to make the college football playoff this year. They could have had a surprising run, but it probably wasn't going to happen. With all of the talent that you lost from last year's team, the veterans that you had on that team, the quarterback situation, you probably weren't making the college football playoff. But because of how things played out, you probably maybe felt some obligation to your fans to try and get revenge for this year. And I've heard this theory before that maybe you feel like that you had to get to the playoff, but in reality, you probably should have just had a rebuilding year. Mike Norvell probably shouldn't have taken DJ in the transfer portal. Probably should have stuck with Brock Glenn or whoever he was going to go with at quarterback and just kind of go from there. And if you lose this game, you probably have to just go to that because you're 0-3. At best, you're finished 9-3, and you need to worry about the future because DJ is a 1 year player that is not going to be here long term. You have to think of the long term options because if you keep him in too long, you're going to lose some of those players to the transfer portal and then you're starting all over. So you have to think about the long term future of this team. And there are some talented players on this squad still. So you have to think, what's this going to do for our team long term? Does it benefit us to continue playing this way? And what does it mean in order for us to get to that point? Now, the quarterback play is probably the matchup I'm curious to watch the most. DJ against Seth Hennigan, a player that everyone knows versus a player that is kind of falling off people's radars and is looking to get back on that track. And when you look at the players to watch for Memphis, Seth Hennigan is one of the most slept on quarterbacks in college football. Already has thrown 469 yards and 3 touchdowns, and has a group of wide receivers, a trio of wide receivers that are really good. Rock Taylor, Demir Blankenship, Kobe Drake, three of the better wide receivers in the AAC. They are going to be tough to cover. That being said, the matchup you probably could say is those receivers against Florida State's defensive backs. Florida State's defensive backs are very good, and that's going to be a big matchup that determines where this group goes and how successful Memphis' offense is going to be. They have pretty good depth at the pass catching positions, and you're looking for this offense to do its part. Chandler Martin, absolute stud on the defense side of the ball. Also, the addition of Elijah Herring has proven to be one of the best for any group of 5 team this year. Coming in from Tennessee, you expected big things from him, and he has delivered. He is someone that Florida State is going to have to keep an eye on, and he is someone who can be extremely disruptive for this team. Now, on the Florida State side of things, everybody's got their eyes on DJ. That's not going to be a surprise. No one's really unaware of how important the quarterback position is to this game, and he is going to have to play much better than he has so far. That is not a secret to anyone, and that's something that this group has to figure out. And if he is not the guy, they need to find a way to move on, and they need to find a way to figure out who's going to be that guy going forward. The rushing attack of Roydell Williams and Lawrence Tolafili has been very disappointing as well. So finding a way to get the rushing attack going is going to be a big key. And against a team in Memphis, you should be able to do that because you are the more talented team. But Memphis, like I said, blocking Elijah Herring, blocking guys like William Whitlow Jr., certain guys like Camonte Hamilton. You've had a number of players from Memphis in the past that have been difficult, and this year. So that's going to be tough to see. The passing attack for Florida State also will have to get off the ground. The Florida State side of things, French Cypress is going to be fun to watch against Rock Taylor. That is a matchup to watch if you are either side. I think keeping an eye on that will be a very fun matchup to watch. Those are two really good players on both sides of the ball. You also have Azariah Thomas, who can be very fun to watch. Who, if he's guarding Rock Taylor or Blankenship or Kobe Drake, there are plenty of matchups to watch. And whoever blocks Patrick Payton for Memphis will have their hands full as well. So it's still plenty of talent for Florida State to utilize, and plenty of talent that Memphis must worry about. That's going to be the biggest thing there. And it's going to be interesting to see how both of these teams respond, how both of these teams prepare for this game, and how both these teams execute in what is a very important game for very different reasons for both teams. I think that Memphis is playing with a ton of confidence. I have a lot of faith in them to continue playing that way. I just don't know if Silverfield has enough to get the job done. Now, finishing or starting 0-3 for Mike Norvell would be disappointing, but it's not unheard of. I think the talent level favors them. And I think that if you can just slow things down and figure out how to get your offense to move the ball efficiently, then you're going to be in a much better place. To me, I'm probably going to lean with Memphis just a little bit, but I would not be surprised if Florida State wakes up and figures this thing out. You know what? I'm gonna stick with Memphis, but I'm not surprised. This is a game that it's 5.5 in Florida State's favor. I think that they have the talent to wake up and kind of put an end to Memphis's Cinderella run, or maybe their Cinderella feelings, and they get the year 1 and 2. An 0-3 start though would start a much bigger conversation for this team.